Yo, what's going on, guys? Adam Klabisky here on Experience Not Educated. So today I want to talk about a project that I recently just completed for my English class. And more specifically, not just what I did in the project, but what I learned from it and what I think everyone should be learning before they even go into college.
We need to start from the beginning.
So when it came to choosing my major, I was never quite sure what I wanted to do. All I know is that I wanted a lot of money and I didn't want a desk job. So I heard from my friend that he was majoring in psychology. And when I first thought of that, all I could really think of is how I've heard from some other people that there's a high demand for psychology in Arizona, which is where I live, and that I kind of thought that it just pays well because I know being a psychiatrist, it costs a lot to get in. So I thought, it must get a lot of money. And not only just that, going into psychology, I thought I'd be like a therapist and I wouldn't be sitting in a desk job. I can help people and be like talking to someone every day, which I just thought was like perfect for me. So when it came to choosing my major, psychology was my first choice, and I thought I was be happy with it. But the one thing I never really thought of was how I was going to get from a freshman in college with a psychology major to being a therapist and knowing exactly like what are those jobs in between and how do you get from point A to point B. So when I first moved into college, that's something that literally kept me up at night thinking about was I just didn't know where my career was actually going and if this is something I really wanted to do and how long it was going to take and how much money is going to be required. It's just all these questions I just didn't know the answer to. And coincidentally enough, in English, we ended up getting an assignment, and she asked, the first question is, what's something that you think about every day or keeps you up at night or just something that's like always on your mind? And that was the first thing that came to my mind. It's how am I going to like get out of college and have a successful life and career? The project was basically to research that question and find an answer. So it has to be a question that there is a real answer to it, and it's something that you really want to know, and I had to explain that. But from what I learned from this simple little, essay or research project I had to do, it was just something I wish I knew way before I even chose psychology. So if I figure I'm going to find this answer, I need to start with one bit at a time and piece it together to finally find my end goal. If I'm going to stay with psychology, I need to know exactly what I'm getting into, based on how long it's going to be, how much school work, what's it cost. So I started my research by simply typing into Google Scholars, what do most people with a psychology degree do for a living? So I found an article called The Diverse Nature of Psychology by Johnny Ann Wilson. And what I saw that he did is he made a description for all types of psychology. And all of these types were really interesting to me. They all were appealing in their own individual way, but there was one that really caught my attention, and that was clinical psychology. And what clinical psychology would allow me to do is basically talk to patients one-on-one, help find what issue is going on with them, and just find a solution for it. And reading this allowed me to get one step closer to finding the end goal, which is how am I going to live with this career of psychology. And now I know I can start by focusing on the major of clinical psychology. So now this opens up my second question. What majors do I need to get? I'm keeping this in.
That was so funny.
I'm keeping it in. My second question is, what are the requirements to get a major? I'll tell you right now. I didn't like the answers I really got.
I thought you were going to read.
I'm just learning stuff right now.
Oh, I thought you were actually going to put that in.
No. I mean, I will.
No.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll just lay back down on the ground.
So while the only real requirements for a clinical psychology major is just to have an undergraduate degree. However, if you really want to make a name for yourself and make yourself more optionable, you're probably going to want to be looking towards a master's. So now that I know that I'm probably going to have to get a master's in clinical psychology to really be able to get a job, I got to think about the next step now. My next question would be then, so I typed into Google, how do psychologists first start their career? What I find out is I have to apply for clinical training in order to actually even further my career. And to apply, I would have to take an application test. And if I get accepted, I'll be trained on how to be a clinical psychologist and hopefully get licensed. And even though I've heard before that psychology is something that is very needed in Arizona, I feel like there's something I still had to search out myself just to be safe. So I find a website called Career Explorer. So I find out that my career has gone up 14% in demand over the past couple years. So I know that finding a job probably won't be that hard. But even with high demand, there's still one factor that is probably the main reason why I'd be doing psychology, and it's for the money. I want to know how much I'll be getting paid while I'll be doing this. Still using Career Explorer, I find out that wages usually start from around $37,000 and go up to about $98,000, which I don't know. Call me selfish, but that's just not a lot in my eyes. So when I read this, personally, the way I see it is I want to be wasting a good portion of my life doing a job and not being able to go to places I want to see or do the things I want to do with a salary that just won't allow me to achieve those dreams, those goals. And the way I see this is I would really enjoy psychology. I think it's something that I could be really passionate about. But I also know there's a lot of other jobs that pay a lot more, but they're just not as fun. They're more of the everyday grind. So I had to think to myself, did I want a job that I had to really grind for but have more money, I guess, or a job that I enjoyed and just living, I guess, just average, in my eyes at least. So now I have so much stuff to consider, and after doing all this research, all, going through articles at work or articles I just didn't have the right answer, but I had to read the whole thing to do. But irrelevant, I still had to think about, was this something that I was truly passionate for? And maybe there's jobs that are out of state that could pay more with psychology. But would I have to consider it? Could I leave all my friends and family behind to pursue that just to see if it's possibly better? I really can't tell you yet. So after all these considerations, I guess I just decided to stick with it for now. Hopefully I can get a master's and really grind out the college struggle, I guess, and get a job that's just going to pay well with psychology. Maybe I'll get my own psychology clinic and I can start making the money and travel and do everything I wanted to do. So I think this is something, though, that everyone should do before they really consider their career path, their major. Because if I knew this information before, I might have chose something else, and I still might. And I really regret being this late in my first year, still not knowing if I'm happy with this, or if there's something better out there for me, and I just won't, maybe I'll never know. And I'm not trying to scare anyone by any means by talking about this. I just think it's something you should really consider before you choose your major. I think it would help everyone out. I think it'd make your stress levels in college go a lot more down, because you know you're happy with what you chose, and you know exactly what you're going to do through college and after college. But anyway, guys, that's going to conclude the video. I hope you actually learned something from this. I hope you do search up your major. Maybe you're in college and still want to change it. This is something I think everyone should do. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.